Got my own microphone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this decision meeting for the Culture, Leisure and Economic Development portfolio. I'm Councillor Steve Pitt, the Cabinet Member for that portfolio. Bit of housekeeping just to start. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, that is a genuine fire alarm. Please evacuate the room and a public gallery by the stairwells. Please do not use the lifts and assemble in the turning circle at the end of King Henry Street, past the University's Park building, not by Queen Victoria's statue. As you may have noticed, there's a giant ice rink in the way. In order to comply with the Guildhall Trust fire marshal regulations, anyone who signed in at the Guildhall reception desk should sign out when leaving the building at the end of today's meeting. I draw everyone's attention to the fact that this meeting will be live streamed. Everyone speaking via a microphone will be on camera, including any making deputations, although there aren't any today. Members of the press and public are also permitted to record the meeting on the understanding that it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Please can everyone use the microphones and remember to switch them off when they have finished. Okay, there are no deputation requests today. We will first start off by going around the room and all introducing ourselves, which I've already done. Over to you, Anna.
Anna Martin, Democratic Services.
Sue Page, Finance.
Claire Looney, Commissioning and Partnership Manager for Culture, Leisure and Regulatory Services.
Dave Percival, Library and Archives Service Manager.
Claire Watkins, Business Manager.
Jane Lee, Museums and Visitor Services Manager.
Jennifer Macy, Historic Environment Record Assistant.
Katie Ball, Collections Registrar for Portsmouth Museums.
James Daly, Cultural Development and Projects Officer.
George Fielding, Labour spokesperson for this portfolio.
Councillor Russell Simpson, Hilsey Ward.
Councillor Linda Symes, Eastleigh and Craneswater.
Good morning and welcome everyone, elected members and officers. We have no apologies for absence that I'm aware of. No, thank you very much. Any members' interest declarations? Any members, anything? Nope, none. Okay, fine. In which case we'll then proceed to item 3, which is seafront fees and charges for 2023-2024. And I believe that's being presented jointly by Claire Watkins and Claire Looney.
Thank you, Councillor Pitt. Thank you. So this report covers seafront fees for poster sites, beach huts, land hire and events. Turning to poster sites first, you'll see from the report that we've covered a number of local government campaigns in areas of public health, sustainable transport and energy. Our internal market for culture has included a campaign for the Silver City exhibition for Portsmouth Museums, together with promoting the Hot Walls Creative Markets. Externally, we've also promoted the city's local cinemas, theatres, arts and cultural trusts and citywide event promotions. And as indicated in the report, we propose to raise fees by CPI at both our A1 and ETC sites. And now I'll hand over to Claire Looney.
Thank you, Councillor Pitt. The remainder of the report discusses the areas around the beach hut provision and also the provision of land on the seafront primarily to support events and activities. The fees and charges which are represented in the report reflect a CPI increase only on those activities. In regard to the beach huts, they have remained exceedingly popular and the introduction of a third weekly bookable beach hut has gone down exceedingly well for this season. I think obviously the prolonged summer weather this period helped considerably. However, we are increasing the number of weekly beach hut bookings through the autumn series and we hope that will also continue during the spring as the weather improves. And we do have some over the Christmas and New Year period as well, so people are clearly optimistic that the weather will be appropriate. On the regard to the fees and charges for the land hire, the changes that we introduced at the beginning of April this year have been well received by the event organisers, and this report just amends a small anomaly we found when we found we were charging the same figure for two different scales of event, and also just has an alteration to the set-up and strike-down day charges for the other charity prices, so they're proportionate to the charges made by the local charities. So there's a small amendments to those, and also we've included the charges for the Guildhall Square usage in this report, as these appear not to have been brought forward for a number of years for consideration. We'd be happy to take any questions on any aspect of the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Probably worth adding that previously Guildhall Square had been managed by the Pred portfolio, and that's probably why that's not been something that we've had a priority for review before, but now the bookings are managed by Culture and Leisure. Obviously, it makes sense for us to look at that as part of the whole it's obviously not ideal that we have to follow CPI when CPI is high, but otherwise it will add additional pressure to the service, and it seems to me proportionate that we should therefore do so. Members, any questions or comments? I'll go round. George?
I was just only curious relating to the seafront per site per day charges. Obviously, we've introduced a new criteria there relating to events of capacity of 5,000 up to 9,999. Is that the amount being charged for that proportionate overall to what an over 10,000 capacity would be, or is it an excess charge in that respect?
Claire?
I can confirm that is proportionate because the majority of those that are over 10,000 capacity are significantly higher. What I would also say is the number of events that are the 5,000 to 999 capacity are relatively small, and that figure threshold is also a threshold within the licensing team as well. So there are other aspects where it parallels those, although the charges are obviously reflecting the actual land usage. But most people make their decisions based on the capacity of what they want to do, based on a number of other factors, not necessarily ours particularly.
Okay. Russell, anything? No. Linda, anything? No. Okay. Thank you very much. In which case, recommendations are agreed. Thank you very much. And officers, please don't feel you need to stay to the end of the meeting. If you've got no other items on the agenda, go back and do whatever you need to be getting on with. Item 4, Gadgeteers Annual Summer Reading Challenge 2022. Dave Percival.
Thank you, Councillor Pitt. So this is our annual update on participation and engagement in the Summer Reading Challenge, and also the second year that we've been part of the Holiday Activities and Food Programme as well. So the Summer Reading Challenge is delivered annually in an overwhelming majority of libraries in the country. Over 500,000 children participated last year, and this year what happens is that children are encouraged to read a number of books over the summer holidays. Classically, it's been 6 have been specified, but in recent years, particularly across the pandemic, children have been encouraged to set their own targets as well, because obviously for some children, reading 1 book over the holidays is as significant as achievement as reading 6 or maybe more. So this year's theme was in association with the Science Museum Group. It was called Gadgeteers, and it focused on science and innovation. Happily this year, library staff were able to go out into schools to promote the challenge and provide invitations to all pupils in the city. We had 2,895 children sign up to take part, either in physical libraries or online, and nearly 1,400 children, 1,393 children, actually went on to complete the challenge. So this was a 10% increase on last year, which we're very pleased about, but obviously there's always room for improvement. The option to participate online has grown, of course, in the past few years. However, physical library visits still account for the overwhelming participation in the challenge. So that was 86% this year, and that was an increase of 6% on last year. It's a massive collective effort for the whole service, so many staff are involved. Over 35,000 items are issued across the city, so that's a significant proportion of overall book issues. We have the mobile library working in partnership with Cumberland House to promote the challenge on its regular stops there. Our colleagues in school library service also provided bean bags to the top 6 schools in terms of participation. And we also received funding from HAF to provide extra packs to the providers across the city so they could encourage children to take part in their settings as well. For the first time, we had 6 family days delivered from Central Library, but we're looking to grow that next year and have more family days in locations in library branches. So hopefully that's something that will grow. Once again, we work with museum colleagues at Southsea Castle for a fantastic winners event. Despite the extremely bad weather in the morning, we had over 3,000 children and families attend, and it's a great forum for other agencies to join us as well. So we had PCC Countryside Officer attending, as well as representatives from Groundlings Theatre who were able to engage with a really diverse group of families from across the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Yes, it was a great event. It was a bit wet, though. We were sort of wading around in puddles to begin with, but it dried out, thank goodness. And it was fantastic to see so many families down there engaging. And I think I mentioned it when we had the briefing, but it's always amazing to me when children pull out their bag that they've got their medals from each year in, and they're adding another one, and they're really proud of it, and it's fantastic. So great news on the uplift in completers. I know that there's plans around doing even more again next year. You did mention in the briefing around the Summer Reading Challenge Plus, and I'm aware that Councillor Simpson and Councillor Fielding weren't there, so it'd be helpful if you could just say a little bit about that.
Yes, so pre-pandemic in 2019, for the first time, we offered schools to target some disadvantaged pupils and actually bring them to libraries in the run-up to the summer holidays, so they could actually be introduced to the library, join the library, and take part in the challenge before the summer holidays, because one of the challenges, as you'll be aware, is parental engagement. So the children, before the holidays, had in effect finished the reading challenge, and then were able to take part in all the rewards and incentives that schools were providing in September as well. So we'll return to that next year, and hopefully that will drive up the numbers of children who we really do want to target in the activity. And I just forgot to mention the appendices as well, which do have the participation rates in schools, which we keenly follow. And also just some of the impact data, the verbal comments and feedback, written feedback we had from families that attended the winners event, so you can get a sense of the impact this has on families across the summer holidays.
Fantastic, thanks. And I think adding Summer Reading Challenge Plus back in will definitely help us get those numbers right back to where they were pre-pandemic, because we were on a great trajectory and we want to get them back there. So fantastic. Members, any comments or questions? George?
Just to say, it's good to see that the year-on-year number of people taking part in completing the challenge is going up. Looking at the uptake in different schools, there's obviously some that we have to focus on a lot more to be able to improve that, but generally it's the right trend, and long may it continue.
Fab, thanks. Russell?
Kind of feel like George is always taking my lines, but very, very similar to what George has said.
Okay, Linda?
Yeah, just to reiterate what I said at the briefing meeting, this is such a valuable event every year. It's wonderful to engage children. And as you were saying, George, it's difficult to get some of the children involved, but I do think everyone works so hard to try and make sure that happens. And I think the numbers are fantastic considering we had the pandemic, and all good to David and his team for the good work they do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members. Dave, thank you very much, and good luck with next year. I'll be watching closely. It's my bit of a pet project of mine, is Summer Reading Challenge, as you're aware. But thanks for all you're doing. It's much appreciated. Item 5, that's the Historic Environment Record Audit Report. Jen and Katie, over to you.
The purpose of this report is to review the outcomes of the Historic Environment Record Audit Report, which is included as Appendix 1. A bit of background about the Historic Environment Record. So the HER is the primary source of information relating to the historic environment of the city. This includes a database linked to digital maps that contains information about remains from the prehistoric period to the present day. The records provide information on historic buildings and other structures, earthworks, buried remains, stray finds, landscape features, archaeological investigations, and sites known only from documentary sources. The HER is primarily a planning tool, and it's used to inform planning decisions and is consulted by planners, developers and archaeologists, but it's also invaluable to anybody with an interest in the historic environment of the city, whether they're conducting academic research or just for personal interest. The HER began as a sites and monuments record, which primarily recorded archaeological sites and find spots. This was established around the late 1960s by staff at Portsmouth Museum and consisted of a card-indexed cross-reference to annotated Ordnance Survey maps. Between 2003 and 2005, the original index cards were computerised, and prior to 2012, the HER fell under the remit of staff who had other responsibilities, and therefore no real enhancement of the record was carried out between the mid-1980s and 2012. Following the appointment of a part-time Historic Environment Record Officer in 2012, that's 2 days a week, a sustained programme of improvement and enhancement has taken place. This has included addressing a large backlog of archaeological reports, adding missing data for designations, adding data from the local list of historic buildings, identifying and adding details of fieldwork and finds contained in museum files. The standard of the existing HER records taken from the original index cards has also been greatly improved, and there have been research projects carried out with the assistance of an HER volunteer. As a result of this, the database has doubled in size over the last 10 years and now contains information about a much broader range of sites relating to the city. The profile of the HER has also been enhanced with engagement through social media and events such as the Festival of Archaeology and Heritage Open Days. HER data has to be recorded in line with national standards, including those set out by Midas Heritage, which is the UK's Historic Environment Data Standard, and the Forum on Information Studies in Heritage. Historic England issue guidance for managing HERs in line with best practice and accepted standards to ensure the record is kept up to date with accurate information in order to meet the requirements of the National Planning Policy Framework. Historic England run a national audit programme that they encourage all HERs across the country to take part in. The HER audit specification sets out the criteria by which the HER undertakes self-assessment against nationally agreed requirements for HERs with regard to content and coverage, data standards and security, access and engagement, and infrastructure. The audit aims to encourage, support and document development of the HER in line with the guidance and the principles of the Heritage Information Access Simplified Strategy. Principle 1 of the strategy states that local authority HER should be the first point of contact and primary trusted source of investigative research, data and knowledge. The HER undertook an audit this year between May and September in order to provide the City Council and Historic England with an accurate picture of the HER service and data holdings. The strengths and weaknesses revealed by this exercise will enable the HER to identify forward actions and guide it through the process of continuing improvement. The HER is now in a live audit cycle, and a detailed audit report has been produced by Historic England in liaison with the HER officer. This includes a 5-year action plan to be reviewed at the next audit in 2027. Historic England will contact us in 2.5 years' time to review our progress on the tasks identified in the action plan. So the reasons for the recommendations are the HER audit report and audit summary identify the main strengths and weaknesses and successes and achievements of the HER to date. These include good record quality and record management, significant enhancement over the last 5 years. We have a mission statement, an index reference collection, and a list of items that form a backlog. Inclusion of a range of other data sets providing comprehensive reference to the historic environment. We're fully Midas compliant, and we have a detailed recording manual. Robust and clearly defined data backups and storage procedures further documented in a data management statement. We enable others to contribute to the record by engaging volunteers. We proactively promote access through outreach activities and social media. The HER is covered by specific corporate disaster and business continuity plans and has a succession plan. The HER has highly qualified and experienced staff with more than 10 years' experience in work of this nature. And the report has also identified a number of areas for future work which have been incorporated as specific tasks into a 5-year action plan. And these include creating a forward plan to timetable and prioritise the work of the HER over the next 5 years, create an access and charging policy, recording policy and information services policy, work through backlog tasks of high priority, undertake enhancement work to improve coverage for underrepresented monuments and periods as detailed in the Portsmouth HER Enhancement Projects document, make HER data available online and join the Heritage Gateway, undertake research into user and non-user groups to understand the current user base of the HER and target services to current and new audiences, seek formal adoption by the host authority. This may not be required as the Levelling Up Bill is proposing to make HERs a statutory requirement, and to undertake a staffing and resourcing review as a priority to appraise options for increasing staffing level and budget allocated to HER work.
Thanks, Jen. Obviously a very detailed and essential piece of work. Katie, you're down to co-report. Have you got anything to add?
Nothing significant to add for that, Councillor Pitt.
Okay, thank you both very much then. No actual questions from me. George, anything? No? Russell? No? Linda?
planning was going to help support this financially, because it's going to be quite costly, isn't it?
Who manages the finance around this? It is planning. It's
Yeah,
really
planning pay for the post.
Yeah.
Obviously, having a full-time post and more staff would be lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It is a huge piece of work, yeah, and obviously our assets are extremely important to us as a city, and not least because they help to drive the visitor economy, something that I regularly raise in pretty much any meeting where I get the opportunity to. So Jen, thank you very much indeed for that detailed piece of work. I have to say it wasn't something that has come up before when I've been Cabinet member, so it was really interesting to engage with it and understand it in more detail, and thank you for a thorough presentation today. Appreciate it. Okay, recommendations were that I note the HER audit report and approve that the HER officer creates and implements a forward plan based on the 5-year action plan contained within the audit report, and also approves that the HER officer drafts an access and charging policy, recording policy and information services policies be taken to a future Cabinet member meeting, and all of those recommendations are accepted. Thank you very much. Next one is item 6 on the agenda, and that's an update on the Silver Collection and the Silver City exhibition, which has been doing great stuff and drawing lots of attention. So I welcome the update from James Daly, please.
Thank you, Councillor Pitt. This is an information report to give an update on progress with the exhibition, which is based around our important Civic Silver collection. The exhibition opened on the 27th of May, and it was the first exhibition opening event that we've had since the pandemic started. The exhibition itself attracted a total of £67,000 of funding from 6 different sources, including some funders who we haven't received support from before. In terms of objects that are on display, as well as our Civic Silver collection, we've got objects on loan from the Royal Navy, Portsmouth Cathedral, the Company of Goldsmiths, and from private lenders. The Seymour Salt on loan from the Goldsmiths is a particularly high-profile object. This is Portsmouth's wedding present to Catherine of Braganza when she married Charles II here, and we believe it's the first time it's been back to the city. The exhibition's been supported by a very extensive marketing campaign and a packed engagement programme of events running throughout the run of the exhibition. Social media has been a particular success. For example, the museum's Facebook page has regularly attracted more than 30,000 people over a rolling 28-day period, which is a really good number. Visitor numbers, the period June to September were 21% up on the same period last year, and only 3% down on the same period in 2019. So we're very almost recovered to pre-pandemic levels, which is, I think, very pleasing. The response from visitors has been very positive. We've been gathering feedback, both qualitative and quantitative, so we're asking visitors who are from Portsmouth to put a silver sticker on a map of Portsmouth to let us know where they're visiting from, so we can build up a picture of where our visitors are coming from. And in terms of the collection part of the project, we were able to commission a significance assessment from the President of the Silver Society, who confirmed that our Civic Silver collection is of national importance, particularly for its 16th and 17th century objects. And there have been lots of really good outcomes like that in terms of people being able to tell us new things. So, for example, the Great Mace that is present at all full council meetings, we now know for the first time who made it, which again is quite a nice piece of the jigsaw to be able to put in.
Fab, thanks James. I've visited it 2 or 3 times now, I think, and it's a great exhibition. The interpretation is really well done, I think. I particularly love the retro TV with the newsreel footage that's all been remastered, and sort of takes you back as you and you see those objects in their actual context of when they were either presented or got out for various reasons, and it just makes the whole thing more real. So, I mean, all of us walk past the Lord Mayor's corridor on a very regular basis, and you stop and look, but seeing the background stories behind them and giving them life has been really valuable, I think, for the city, and something for us all to be proud of, and seeing that acknowledgement that there's objects of national importance in there is really great. And also it was Councillor Symes that mentioned in our briefing meeting about having that comparison back to 2019, so it's good that figure's gone in, and for us only to be 3% down, that means that Portsmouth Museum is actually outperforming a lot of its compatriots in the sector. So we're doing very well, and that exhibition's been an intrinsic part of that. So thanks to you and all the team. It's been a great piece of work, and hopefully it's going to continue to attract visitors over the next couple of months until it finishes in February, I think, yes, isn't it? Okay. Members, any questions or comments? Councillor Fielding.
No, just as we've talked about this before, but it's a great example of what the city can do when we pull together to put an event like this on. We say it's of national importance. Really, it's of world importance. The collection that we've got and the way it's presented just goes to show what Portsmouth does best. And thank you to the team and everyone who's involved in that.
Well said. Thank you very much. Russell?
Yes, I went to the exhibition at the end of May, and it was very well put together and really enjoyable, and hopefully a lot more people have enjoyed it. It's very well done to the team.
Thank you very much. Linda?
End of the line, just to reiterate what everyone else has said. Job really well done. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. I'll just take the opportunity to draw people's attention to a new exhibition that's just launched upstairs in the museum. Could you just give us a very quick update on what that is, James, just so people know?
Yeah, I believe this is a refresh of the football exhibition at the City Museum that's been refreshed with support of Pompey History Society, looking at when Pompey were champions of England in 1949 and 1950, and also including some information about Pompey's first black player, Lindy De La Fenia.
I think it was 50 and 51 from memory. Sort of thing that gets ingrained into you. But yes, fantastic, and definitely worth visiting. And I was at the launch. It was really good to see, and I know my dad's not watching this, so it doesn't hurt for me to say to you that it was an ideal Christmas present to pick up the accompanying book. So if anybody's watching this live stream and you're looking for something for Dad for Christmas, I can thoroughly recommend the book. It's really good. Thank you very much for that. Nothing else to add. Item 7 on the agenda today is the Conan Doyle project update, and that's a joint presentation from Laura and Claire. Laura?
Good morning. This is just to update you on the successful Arts Council funded bid, The Detectives. £100,000 was sought and received last year to deliver a 2-year project which works with Portsmouth's most vulnerable residents and works with them in a co-productive way to produce work looking at the Conan Doyle collection and then delivering it to the public. So we have been doing that for a year. We have had a number of successful projects. We have taken part in We Shine last year. We had about 600 people through the doors, where people came along with very challenging physical issues and developed and delivered the work to then put onto the public. We had an art exhibition that went around all Southsea Library. We've had Make and Take that went around all the libraries as part of our Summer of Sherlock programme. We had a theatre production that was in Groundlings Theatre. So we have also been working with detectives individually as well. Not everyone wants to be part of a group. And we are supporting these vulnerable adults in all sorts of ways. They are developing the website, social media, they are gaining lots of skills, and we are also helping them, promoting them in getting work as well and applying for other roles. So we have had two people actually apply for recent jobs. One person has gone on and got an apprenticeship with the NHS, and we're there to support and help and then deliver something back to the wider Portsmouth public. So it's kind of a 360 project. Just because it's on at the weekend, we are doing We Shine. This year we have a group of 8 detectives that have been in co-production with a theatre company, Daniel Hill, who has worked with them, and they are producing Sherlock's Shadow, which is tonight and tomorrow night between 6 and 8 in the Menuhin in the Central Library in the 3rd floor. It'd be really lovely to see you there. It's first night, last night, we had 250 people through the door, and the team, so they are physically acting. These are vulnerable adults that are physically acting their play that they've devised using inspiration from the Conan Doyle collection. Everything comes from the Conan Doyle collection, obviously, and it is something to be seen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura. I was running around all over the place with We Shine last night. I didn't get into the library. I'm hoping to do that tonight. Just a question then, it's 6 till 8. Is it a drop-in or a sit-down performance? And if so, how long? Just so I can plan.
They have done it exactly to their skills needs, so to their limits. So it is for 10 minutes only, and it is a rolling programme. So there's 2 teams. The team of 8 split into 2. One team does 6 till 7 and the other 7 to 8, and it's every 10 minutes. So for the members of the public, they come in, and it doesn't matter when you come in, it will just refresh and they will carry on afterwards.
That's quite an ask, isn't it? So well done to them. I'll definitely make it long. Thank you very much indeed. And also I think we ought to acknowledge thanks to Arts Council England for their support with this project. There was funding for them, so that's much appreciated. Members, any questions? Councillor Fielding first.
I was just interested to see some of the comments of the detectives in terms of the feedback they've had from it. I think it just goes to show what a positive initiative it's been, and yeah, hopefully I'll get along to see at the Methuen Theatre of the Library in the next couple of days.
Fabulous. Councillor Simpson.
I think everyone's favourite detective, very popular in Portsmouth in general. I mean, even outside of this, we've had quite a lot of local actors always doing quite a lot of Sherlock productions, and I was actually going to mention about the Sherlock Shadow currently at the We Shine Portsmouth, so I look forward to seeing that probably Saturday, probably for me.
Thank you, Councillor Symes. Yeah, and while we got the opportunity to mention it a bit more, opening night for We Shine last night, fantastic launch up at Alexandra Park. And then it was funny because there's 4 hubs. You kept bumping into people who were going around in a different order to you. And it was very dark and it was a bit muddy too. So it serves me right for not changing into the boots that I remembered to put in the car, but just didn't get changed into. Not terribly helpful. But a really enjoyable evening. And Victoria Park, so many people in there at a time when we normally lock the park after dark. And there was hundreds of people in there and families having a fantastic time. And the children in particular interacting with the installation where they could use a torch to write their name sort of graffiti style on a wall, but then it faded away immediately afterwards. They were so excited they were writing their names over and over again. And the movement one. So it was really great to see it in the north of the city as well. So it really is now a citywide festival. And also great that the regional director of the Arts Council was here and did the tour last night as well, so you can see just how good Portsmouth is. So if anyone's watching and hasn't heard about We Shine, please go online and check it out and try and engage over the next couple of days. And also the We Create Market will be in the former Sainsbury's stall at the north of Commercial Road tonight on Saturday and during the day on Sunday until 4. Okay, I've done the advert. Hopefully that's won me a brownie point. So thank you very much, and thanks for the update, Laura. I hope to catch up with you over the weekend in there. And no other comments from anyone? No? Okay, in which case we move on to item 8, which is over to Sue for the Q2 financial monitoring report.
Thank you. So this is your forecast expenditure for your portfolio against the cash limited budget as at the second quarter of the year. So overall, there's a net overspend of 1.2 million, but the majority of that is due to the higher utility costs across the portfolio. And these costs will be met from corporate contingency this year. Other than energy, there is a net overspend on the portfolio of £16,000. The main reasons for your variances are listed in the report. As the portfolio has no uncommitted portfolio reserve, if that overspend remains at the end of the year, it will be clawed back from next year's budget. Thank you.
Understood, Sue. Thank you very much. And worth noting for anyone watching that we are using council reserves to offset the energy increase this year, but that's effectively what we would refer to as a one-off. We can't keep doing that, so we are going to need support because a £1 million reduction in service provision from within this directorate would be catastrophic. Can't overemphasise that enough. Okay, thanks very much. Members, any questions? Councillor Fielding first.
No, I just think this goes to show the situation that we're in with the energy crisis that's taking the country and the world at the moment. We just have to be very cautious going forward, but clearly reserves are there for contingencies such as this. But like you've said, an overspend of this in the future would just be completely unheard of and unnecessary. So, yeah.
Thanks. Councillor Simpson.
Just to reiterate really what Councillor Fielding has said, hopefully we will be considered next year with more funding.
Or energy prices will come down, which is the other thing that we desperately need to happen. Councillor Symes.
I think we've been in a downward spiral in culture for a long time. We've gone from 16 million down to 5 or something. And I don't think people realise that for everyone's well-being, how important culture is, how important it is to have all these things to support us. And unfortunately, when you're up against social care and children's services, it's very hard to argue that you want something glittery going on in the sky to cheer people up. But basically, that's what it is. We need so much to preserve those services for the people of this city.
Yeah, no, I agree, Linda. And I was in a meeting this week where I was making the point that, and you just used the term that I use, which is effectively it's early intervention. You know, a lot of the stuff that libraries do and our museum service do, and the parks provision, the events that we put on, all of the activities that go on within the culture and leisure portfolio are driven towards improving mental and physical well-being, changing people's aspirations, creating positivity in their lives. If you take those things away because they're not statutory, what happens is that the statutory services that are left around social care end up picking up bigger and bigger and bigger bills as time goes by. So it's incredibly short-sighted for us to be, you know, as all local authorities. I note that Hampshire this week, the leader of Hampshire, Councillor Roy Humby, wrote directly to the Prime Minister saying that Hampshire is at risk of bankruptcy unless the government intervenes very soon. Portsmouth not currently in that position due to sound financial management over a very long period of time, but we can't survive forever unless things change. So we've got to all hope that the big issues facing the country are resolved, because the alternatives are just too horrific. Thank you all for coming today. Members, thank you very much for your input and comments, as ever, much appreciated. Councillor Fielding, I did want to note something. I recalled when I sat in this seat that last meeting you asked me to add an update on disabled access at the beach to the next meeting, and I didn't. For apologies for that, but Claire, could you note that, and we'll make sure there's an update at the next meeting. Thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day.